Things started out pretty exciting for the Red Sox against the Yankees this weekend, and it all went downhill so fast as Boston lost yet another series to another AL East team, and they also lost Chris Sale in the process.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moments sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On Red Sox listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive also includes engagement rings. Use code Locked On at checkout. Happy Monday. Not really sure if it's such a happy Monday if you are a Red Sox fan. I'm your host, NESN's Lauren Campbell. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. We have quite the episode for you today. We have to dive into Chris Sale's injury and what that means for the Red Sox going forward, especially with the trade deadline fast approaching. But it wasn't all bad news from the weekend. The Red Sox did have 3 picks in Sunday night's MLB Draft. So we'll look at those draft picks but let's start with Sunday because the Red Sox lost the series to officially close out the first half of the 2022 season. We'll talk Friday's exciting 5-4 win and Saturday's ugly 14-1 loss, but we have to start with Sunday because that's where the biggest storyline came from this weekend. One of the biggest storylines anyway. Chris Sale was making his second rehab start. So excited to watch him pitch against the Yankees. I was talking to my fiance and we're like, this is going to be a good test for him. We were excited to just sit down and watch a game together. And in the first inning, boom, broken finger. That's just how the Red Sox season has gone in the first half of 2022. Chris Sale took an Aaron Hicks comebacker. I believe it was 106 miles per hour right off his hand. He kind of put his hand up, Chris Sale did, to protect getting hit in the face. And the ball just hit his hand, broke his finger. He went down immediately, got up, walked off the mound before the play was even over. And you could tell right away it was broken. He held his hand up. His pinky was just mangled. It wasn't supposed to be bent that way. His thumb was pretty swollen too, it looked like, but they did officially diagnose him with a broken pinky on his throwing hand. He will see a hand specialist today in Boston. It's unknown if he will pitch again this year, but Chris Sale, being the Chris Sale that he is, gave himself an unofficial timeline. He did say he imagined himself pitching again this season, that he could see himself pitching again this season. This just sucks. Chris Sale has worked really hard to come back from his rib injury. He was working hard to come back from Tommy John 2 years ago, and it sucks. You feel for the guy because you know how hard he works and you know how much he wants to be playing for the Red Sox, but that's just the way it has gone for Chris Sale during his time with the Red Sox, really. But we don't have any timeline on when he could return this season, if he will return this season. That, of course, depends on what the hand specialist says, if he needs surgery or if this fracture can just kind of reset itself in 4 to 6 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever the timeline could be for a broken finger. But I saw a lot of, after he went down with the injury, that maybe the Red Sox should be sellers at the August 2nd trade deadline, and maybe they should kind of change their approach. I don't necessarily think they should change their approach. I think they have to get the official word on Sale's injury and see how severe it is, and if he does need that surgery or if he can just have it wrapped up for an undisclosed amount of time and can avoid the surgery. But as soon as it happened, Twitter was like, the Red Sox need to sell at the trade deadline. And I don't necessarily believe that to be true. They do need first base help. They do need pitching. I don't think that plan should drastically change because of Chris Sale and his injury. Chris Sale didn't pitch all season due to the stress fracture in his rib. He made 1 outing before Sunday's game, and he was a non-factor for the first half of the season because he was injured. So I don't necessarily think the Red Sox should go into the trade deadline thinking that, oh, if Chris Sale is out for the rest of the season, we should just sell everything we got and start fresh next year. I don't like the idea of that. I want them to get pitching help, which Jake and I have preached all season. And it's very clear they need some sort of help at first base. I think that they were waiting for Tristan Casas, and unfortunately his ankle injury this year has kind of hindered that process. But I don't think the Red Sox should come out of the August 2nd trade deadline without some sort of help at first base. I look silly for saying Bobby Dalbec was going to lead the team in home runs. That was my bold prediction for the 2022 season. And he looks lost at the plate. He looks lost at first base. There's so many defensive miscues. There's just no patience at the plate from Bobby Dalbec. And Franchi Cordero, who was doing well when he was recalled from Worcester, has struck out 50% of his plate appearances in July going into Sunday's game. And he also looks lost at first base at times. So all of a sudden, not only do the Red Sox need bullpen help, but they need help at first base. And they did get help last year at first base. Will they make a move kind of similar to a Kyle Schwarber kind of move? Or are they just going to ignore that altogether and just say, Cassis will be ready at some point next year? We're just going to wait it out. I don't think that's the smart thing to do. And they also might need outfield help. We still don't really have a timeline on Kike Hernandez and where his injury stands. We do know he's shut down indefinitely, and that indefinitely word is intimidating because he might not play for the rest of the season. And I don't think you're going to be able to trade an injured outfielder who's having an off season, who's in the last year of his contract with the Red Sox. So they might be stuck with Kike Hernandez. And it would stink if he's out for the rest of the season because I do think he would be a viable trade chip had he been healthy. And it's never a good time for a player to get injured. We know that. It's never an ideal time for anyone to get injured, but Sale's injury could not have happened at a worse time for the Red Sox. All their injuries already, they're fighting for ground in the AL East. But even though they've struggled against the AL East teams this year, I wonder if it's fair to say if this team were to be on 100% healthy or close enough to it, if they'd have those same struggles against the AL East teams, because this has been a problem all season. We know this. We've talked about this. Even in June, when the Red Sox went 20-6, when they were one of the best teams in baseball, they looked like they could really contend with other teams. They still didn't win a series against an AL East opponent. So the struggles have been there all season. We've talked about their struggles all season against AL East teams and not having really reliable bullpen arms. I don't think Chris Sale's injury, as much as it sucks for the team and it sucks for Chris Sale, it sucks for Red Sox fans, it shouldn't drastically change Boston's approach going into the trade deadline when they needed all this help well before Sale was even activated off the injured list. Anyway, the Red Sox lost 13-2 on Sunday. The only bright spot from Sunday's game was that Jeter Downs hit his first MLB home run. It was the first of his career. It was at Yankee Stadium. So that was a lot of fun. We all know he was named after Derek Jeter. So that was a really fun moment in that game that otherwise was just dreadful to watch if you were a Red Sox fan. Jeter Downs did get the silent treatment from his teammates before he was bombarded. It was a really, really good feel-good moment, and one that Red Sox fans probably needed after the weekend, because Saturday, another ugly loss, 14-1. Nick Pivetta got really roughed up here yet again. 7 earned runs on 7 hits. Austin Davis gave up 4 earned runs. Darwinson, Hernandez, and Caleb Ort combined for 3 earned runs. It's just ugly, ugly, ugly all around. And what is going on with Nick Pivetta? Because he started off rough, turned things around, did a complete 180, but now he did a 180 again, and he's back to the first few months of being the Nick Pivetta from early on in 2022. It's just really not a good time. Red Sox fans are not having fun right now. I'm sure Yankees fans are having fun, and Rays and Blue Jays fans and even Orioles fans who continue to just have fun winning games and looking like a team that could be very, very competitive very, very soon. But Nick Pivetta, I don't know. I wish I knew. I love Nick Pivetta. I loved what he did last year. Obviously struggled in the beginning of this year, and to see him struggle again. And I know the entire team is struggling. Maybe it's just they know they're close to the All-Star break. They need a few days off to regroup. Hey, it worked for the Bruins last year when they had the league was shut down due to COVID. And the Bruins look like a different team after a few extra days off. Maybe that's just what the Red Sox need. Maybe some of these guys are running on fumes. And yes, this is their job. They are used to this. But it is a grind to play these games, get a few days off, and then go right back to it. You're traveling. You're not around your family a whole lot. Maybe they just need some time to regroup and reset. But Nick Pivetta really, really needs to figure it out. He needs to go back to the Nick Pivetta when he was like 8-1 in his last 9 starts. We need that Nick Pivetta if the Red Sox do want to seriously contend in the postseason. We've talked about how difficult that's going to be because they can't win against the AL East teams. But Nick Pivetta especially when Nate Eovaldi was injured, he really stepped up. He really came into a really good role for the Red Sox and looked like somebody the Red Sox could rely on. You saw Nick Pivetta on the mound, and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, we got this. Nick Pivetta's on the mound. Now Nick Pivetta comes out for a start, and we're like, oh, what Nick Pivetta are we going to get? Are we going to get 7 earned runs on 7 hits, or are we going to get 7 innings and 2 hits? Are we going to get complete game Nick Pivetta? So very interesting season for him right now. Hopefully, like I said, just needs some rest. The Red Sox need some rest as well. But at least the series started on a high note, right? We can hang on to that, right? The Red Sox won 5-4 in 11 innings. Xander Bogaerts made a really heads-up play to score from third on a wild pitch. Thigh looks fine. He slid right into home. Boston took a 5-4 lead on that play in the 11th, later won by the same score. As exciting as that win was and a good play by Xander Bogaerts, it was also Nate Eovaldi's return from the injured list. His last start was June 8th, so it'd been a while since Red Sox fans saw him on the mound. He went 4 1/3. He gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks, and 4 Ks. I think it was enough. I think that not pitching in over a month and doing so against the Yankees in your first start back, I think that Red Sox fans can be fine with what he did. I think that he'll obviously the 3 earned runs, the 6 hits, you want to see those be less. But when you haven't pitched in as long as Eovaldi hadn't, you just want him to be able to go out there and give the Red Sox a chance to win. So hopefully he'll, again, maybe like Pivetta, get that extra rest after coming off the IL and just come back refreshed for the second half of this season. The Red Sox have a lot of questions to be answered in the second half, but as dreadful as the action has been on the diamond, there was some news away from it. The MLB Draft was on Sunday, and the Red Sox had a few picks, and I will tell you about them after I tell you about Blue Nile. Whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a big milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as the person you're celebrating with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. Blue Nile has simple online tools that let you choose the diamond shape, size, and the clarity as well as the setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers then will handcraft the perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on right now is Blue Nile's anniversary sale. So you can save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, it ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging, so it will not give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. In the NFL, I can't believe it. It's almost already here. So in which NFL stars move the betting line the most? Starting July 18th, Locked On gives you the 50 most valuable players in the NFL from the odds makers at Bet Online. Available July 18th on Locked On NFL, wherever you get your podcast, and right here on YouTube. So the Red Sox drafted 3 high schoolers on Sunday night. Mikey Ramiro was one of them. He is best friends with Marcelo Meyer, who was drafted by the Red Sox in last year's draft. Ramiro is a shortstop. There was another shortstop we'll get into that the Red Sox also drafted. And I feel like the MLB draft is much different from the NFL draft, the NBA draft, and the NHL draft because you're not necessarily drafting, unless you're drafting a pitcher, obviously, you're not necessarily drafting for need right away in the MLB draft. You essentially take the best player who's available and who could help your team. That's what Boston did with Marcelo Meyer last year, and people were up in arms about him being a shortstop. Just because someone is a shortstop out of high school, they're not necessarily going to be developed as a shortstop through the Red Sox farm system. They might not necessarily even play for the Red Sox down the road. These could be trade chips. These could be people they develop into solid players to trade away. Maybe they'll become solid infielders. Maybe they'll become a first baseman. But Mikey Ramiro can hit, and that was a lot of what his scouting report is. Red Sox scout JJ Altobelli said he can hit. He's a hitter. He can really, really hit. And he told this to the Boston Globe's Alex Spear. He said he's got an unbelievable baseball IQ. He's a complete baseball player, and he can do the hardest thing there in the game better than most, which is hit. And his high school coach, he went to Orange Lutheran, and his coach, Eric Borba, who also talked to the Boston Globe's Alex Spear, said pretty much kind of the same thing. He said the hit tool on Mikey is as good as I've ever seen. The ability that he has to make adjustments in game is way more advanced than anything I've ever seen. He'll come back to the dugout and talk about what a pitcher is trying to do, and he's got a true understanding of what it takes to be successful. So I think this is kind of the name to watch for over the next few years, who the Red Sox selected from this year's draft. I think that it was a solid pick by the Red Sox. Like I said, I don't necessarily think this means he's going to be a shortstop for the Boston Red Sox. They have one of those right now. And listen, if worse comes to worse, they still have Trevor Story if Xander Bogaerts indeed walks at the end of this season. But that's a totally another topic for a totally another episode down the road, months from now. But overall, I do think this was a solid pick by the Red Sox. And they had another pick at number 41 overall. They drafted yet another shortstop. This is Cutter Coffey out of Liberty High School in California. He's a 6'2" power hitter. He's a lefty, and he's one of the best, if not the best two-way player in this year's draft. He had a slash line of 442, 581, 1021 with 12 homers in 31 games as a senior in high school. And he also struck out 42 batters in 35 and a third innings. And Alex Spear said he showed the potential for 3 average or better pitchers, headlined by a mid-90s fastball and slider. So a two-way player, obviously. I don't think anyone is going to be Shohei Ohtani in our lifetime, but he sounds like he's got the power to hit. Obviously, you see the averages and the OPS, and then you see the strikeouts across the innings that he's pitched. So I'm certainly going to be keeping my eye on him over the next few years. Like I said, these players probably aren't going to make a super duper impact this season, next season. We'll probably have to wait to see them for a little while as they develop in the Red Sox farm system. And with their final pick on day one, the Red Sox took an outfielder, Roman Anthony, out of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. They got this pick after Erod left in free agency, and they think that the Red Sox believe that he could have a future in center field with big power. So overall, I think it was a solid draft for the Red Sox. I think that, like I said, the MLB draft is much different from the other professional sports drafts, but I think they got good picks on day one, and I'm excited to see how they develop these guys and if they end up playing for the Red Sox down the road, maybe what their MLB career ends up being, whether they get traded from the Red Sox or end up playing for them. It's unknown if these guys will make an impact on the Red Sox or MLB as a whole, but maybe you could head over to BetOnline if you're feeling lucky and see what they have. Because BetOnline.net is your #1 source for all of your sporting needs and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league news, reviews, including this year's Major League Baseball All-Star Game Home Run Derby, which is fast approaching. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all of your podcast and news this season. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. So as always, we're going to end the Locked On Red Sox podcast with our mental health minute. And Jake and I were talking last week and just talking kind of about our schedules for this coming week and what we want to plan for with no games, just the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby. And we have a lot of fun ideas for you that we can't wait to share with you. But we were talking about how this weekend we were both going away to just kind of reset. Jake's going camping. I had my bachelorette weekend with my bridesmaids, and it was just a really good conversation that we had and a good reminder that as busy as we can get and as crazy as our schedules can be sometimes with our full-time jobs, it was really good to just chat about getting out and being able to just kind of enjoy the world around us, not be so crushed by work and the day-to-day things of life, and just kind of be able to get away, reset our brains like the Red Sox. Maybe they just need to have a quick little reset and reset their brains, get some nature, get some fresh air, some vitamin D. But it was just a reminder that even though we work in sports media and sometimes we don't even know our schedules and know that our schedules can change at the drop of a hat, that we still take pride in making sure that we still take care of ourselves, giving ourselves time to, like I said, go outside. Jake went camping, and I was able to go away this weekend and just not think about anything. And it was a great weekend if you were a Red Sox fan, because I didn't even think about the Red Sox. I saw some of the score updates and I was like, That's enough for me. But it's so important to, even though I work in sports, to just get away. We talk a lot about mental health and talk about taking care of ourselves. And sometimes we don't always practice what we preach, but I know for sure this weekend we definitely did. It was so nice to just get away. Even though it was only 2 hours from where I live, it's still nice to go to the beach, go explore new wineries, and just explore with your friends while Jake is just enjoying the nature around him. He's posted a really, really nice picture of the sunset last night, and just small things like that that help you reset your brain, get ready for the week ahead, get ready for the MLB trade deadline, get ready for what will hopefully be an exciting and thrilling second half of the 2022 season. As long as it's better than the first half of the season, I think Red Sox fans will be happy. We'll end the show there. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Red Sox right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast is where you can find us. Follow us on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. Jake at Jake Iggy. He will be back this week with me. We have some fun, exciting content planned. And me, Lauren, 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. Be sure to check out all the other shows across the Locked On Network. Locked On Yankees, Locked On O's, Locked On Reds. Everyone does an incredible job here at the Locked On Network, bringing you baseball content Monday through Friday. And now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen, head on over to Locked On MLB Prospects to make it listen number 2 of your day. Host Lindsey Crosby, I'm telling you, is a prospect encyclopedia. He brings you great insight of MLB stars of tomorrow like Brian Bayo. It is free and available wherever you get your podcast. Have a great day. Have a wonderful week. We will be back bringing you recapping the first half of the season, the good, the bad, the ugly. We will tell you how the Red Sox stars do in the All-Star game and just our favorite takeaways from Home Run Derby and the All-Star game as a whole. Have a great day. As always, let's go Red Sox.